wait until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community. I would love to see.
Take a look at my record, man. I extended the voting rights 25 years. I have a record that is second to none. The NAACP has endorsed me every time I've run. Come on. Take a look at the record.
Larry Elder, why would somebody from our community vote for you, or why should they vote for you? Why should a black person vote for you?
Because I'm telling the truth, and the truth oftentimes is unpleasant. It's not pleasant for me to be called the black face of white supremacy, as the LA Times did. It's not pleasant for me to be accused of being anti-black, as Tavis Smiley once called me, because I don't support reparations. By the way, Barack Obama never supported reparations. Nobody called him anti-black. We need to talk about what's going on. What's going on is the breakdown of the family. And most of the things we complain about downstream, whether it's crime or whether it's bad schools, the genesis is the breakdown of the nuclear intact family, and we don't talk enough about it.
Do you agree that our community is hit harder with a lot of things that you just said, whether it is racism, whether it is getting loans, whether it is getting entrepreneurship, whether it is education, whether it is all those things? You do understand that and agree with that, correct?
I do, but much of it is either self-inflicted or because of policies that we have supported.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So I wanted to react to this Breakfast Club interview with Larry Elder, who's running for the Republican primary. And he really did set out some truth in this interview. He dispelled a lot of myths. He dispelled a lot of ideologies. You know, you have people who are pretty much part of the elite. They get paid millions, yet they claim anybody with the same skin color as them is oppressed. And I think that does people a disservice. I think that does black people a disservice when you, who is successful in this country, your skin color didn't hold you back, is going around telling everyone else that they're oppressed, and that skin color is going to hinder your success within this country, within America. I think you do black people a disservice. And Larry Elder really did dispel a lot of myths. He dispelled a lot of their, ideas that they're pushing on people. And I'm glad to see that he was able to do that. And our friend Tezlyn is back, and she has some of the same sort of techniques when it comes to interviewing that she had with Vivek Ramaswamy. And then we're going to finish off with the most beautiful moment in history. Okay, that's a bit extreme. But we're going to finish off with Larry Elder putting Charlamagne in his place, checking him for sitting there while Joe Biden disrespected him as a black man, as an American. Charlamagne sat there and said nothing. When Joe Biden told him that if you don't vote the way I want you to vote, you ain't black, he sat there and said nothing. Finally, he's been called out on that. So we're going to finish off with that. Copyright permitting, because Breakfast Club love to copyright things. I'm going to include just, a little bit here and there. So let's take a look.
Do you think slavery was self-inflicted? Or do you think Jim Crow segregation was self-inflicted? Or do you think,
slavery was self-inflicted? Of course it wasn't self-inflicted, but there are a lot of people have bloody hands in slavery. Mm-hmm. For example, slavery could not have existed had it not been for African chieftains who were selling black slaves captured in battle or captured through raids and selling them to European and Arab slavers. It could not have existed without that. So everybody has dirty hands here. That's why reparations is such a foolish thing. If you're going to get reparations from the 5% or so of white people that have some sort of generational connection to slavery, and that's all there is, then you need to go back to Africa and get money from African countries that were involved in the slave trade and in the Arab slave trade. And by the way, the Arab slave trade was even worse than the European slave trade. 90% rate of attrition, often making men and women walk on barefoot across the Sahara, and the men were castrated. Only about five.
So if they go after the money from the other countries, then would you agree that it would be okay to go after the money from America?
So he's making a very good point there, talking about how heinous, slavery was, of course. But he was also pointing out the Arab slave trade, other atrocities that have occurred against other groups of people. And you see how she interrupted him there, because what he's saying doesn't fit her narrative. So she just interrupted him.
Has been part of human history from the very beginning.
Okay, we getting money. I've let you talk, sir. I've let you talk. And
did she really just say, "I've let you talk"? She literally interrupted him while he was making a very good point. She didn't like the point he was making, so she interrupted him. And now she's saying, "I let you talk." What?
Every time I talk, you begin to talk, and then you say, let you finish. So I asked you a very simple question. You said, if you're going to go after it in America, go after it in Africa. So if we all agree to go after it in Africa, will you then agree to go after it in America? It's just a simple question. Yes or no?
No, I won't, because it's a waste of time. We ought to be spending our time on education.
Next question.
Okay. You told me that I cut you off. Then I tried to answer your question. You won't let me finish.
Go ahead, Larry.
Thank you. It's a waste of time. We ought to be talking about working hard, investing in ourselves. Right now, as we speak, there are Haitians in Haiti lining up for a lottery to come into this country. Why? Because it is the land of the free and the home of the brave. You can go from nothing to something faster in America than any other country in all of human history. We ought to be talking about that.
I wish we spoke about how black kids are leaving school without the ability to read. As much as we talk about reparations, that is never going to happen, by the way, realistically. Of course, you're not going to go after Africa. They're going to be like, okay, you want this amount of money? Okay, good. Please help yourself. If you can find the money, please let me know. She knows very well that that's not going to happen. That's a waste of time. So all these scenarios, if we did this, if we did that, would you be happy with reparations? Again, the conversation is a waste of time when we've got real issues to be discussing. In America, kids are leaving school without the ability to read.
Let me just, one more point. 1997, Time Magazine and CNN hooked up together to do a poll on what black teenagers and white teenagers felt about racism. Mm-hmm. And both of them were asked, is racism a major problem in America? Both of them said yes. But then Time and CNN asked this question of the black teenagers. Is racism a big problem, a small problem, or no problem in your own daily life? This is 1997. 89% of them said small problem or no problem in my own daily life. In fact, twice as many blacks said failure to take advantage of available opportunities is a bigger problem than racism.
That was 1997.
1997. Look it up.
Wow. 1997. And I would think that a lot of people, if they're honest, will say the same thing today. The demand for racism is greater than the supply, but the media and these corrupt politicians want you to believe that racism is the biggest problem in this country. Even Joe Biden said that white supremacy is the biggest problem in this country.
2023, though.
You think America's more racist now after the election and re-election of Barack Obama than it was in 1997?
Yes, because of the election of MAGA, Donald Trump, 100%. Yes.
Really?
With the election of Donald Trump, 2023 has become more racist than in 1997. That's what he believes. And in fact, if you go back to when Donald Trump was elected, were we not doing better? Was black unemployment the lowest? 94 crime bill existed in 1997. In the recent years, we've had people released from prison, non-violent offenders being given a second chance because of Trump's prison reform. But yet 2023 is more racist, apparently. Because the media have told you that.
Absolutely.
Well, how is it, Charlamagne, that Donald Trump got 8% of the black vote in 2016? He got 12% in 2020, a 50% increase. He got 20% of the black male vote in 2020. If MAGA is racist, how do you explain that Donald Trump substantially increased the percentage of black votes the Republican Party got?
Sometimes people make
poor choices. Why are you running against Trump then, Mr. Elder?
Yeah, I'm not running against him. I'm running against Biden-Harris. Any one of the Republican nominees we have would be better than what we have right now. I'm not running against him. I'm running to put forth the issues I just now mentioned that I've been talking about for the last few minutes.
So he goes into some of the benefits that black people experienced while under Donald Trump, contrary to what Charlamagne is saying about him bringing back systemic racism.
I thought Donald Trump did an extraordinary job as president, especially for black people. Best economy ever. He did something about the borders. The people that are most hurt because of porous borders are black people living in the inner city, because most of the illegal aliens have little or no education. They end up living in the inner city. They compete against black people with high school or less for jobs. Mm-hmm. There are about 1 million fewer black people working than who would otherwise be working if it weren't for illegal alien labor. And illegal alien labor, according to a study done by the Civil Rights Commission, puts downward pressure to the tune of almost $2,000 per year on the salaries of black people living in the inner city. And Donald Trump gave us the most secure border we ever had. He also supported school choice. He also did the First Step Act, which allowed about 5,000 mostly black men with long criminal sentences, nonviolent, to have their sentences reduced an average of 70 months per. He pardoned Jack Johnson, the first black heavyweight champion. Even Barack Obama didn't do that. He did an extraordinary job for black people.
And he pardoned Harry O., the co-founder of Death Row Records. Even Snoop Dogg, who's been talking trash about Trump from the very beginning, had to issue a public statement of gratitude to Trump for releasing Harry O. Did Obama do that? No.
A greater percentage of Democrats believe 2016 was stolen than we feel that way about 2020, but yet nobody calls them election deniers and nobody accuses them of undermining our republic. And they're not undermining our republic. They're complaining about an election. You have a right to do so.
I know you probably got to go. Have you ever heard of the term nigga wake-up call?
No.
It is an incident where a person of color forgets that they are of color and are reminded rather brutally by an unexpected act of racism. Have you ever had any of those?
Oh, brother.
I'm just asking. You think you've ever had
Well, I'm acutely aware, Charlamagne, that I'm a black person, just as you are a black person. And when Joe Biden insulted you by saying, you ain't really black, you don't know whether or not you want to vote for me or vote for Donald Trump, it seems to me that should have been a wake-up call on your part. How dare this guy come in here and insult you, a black man, and tell you you got to think a certain kind of way? I'm amazed that you weren't mad about that.
I'm not gonna say it upset me, just like I'm not letting you upset me. You know what I mean? I don't tend to get upset over things like that. But what I did say,
well, you just not talk about a nigger wake-up call, and it seemed to me that should have been a wake-up call on your part to have a white guy come in here who also said, by the way, about Mitt Romney, because he didn't want to put more regulations on Wall Street, going to put y'all back in chains. And Joe Biden has lied for decades about his civil rights record, claiming that he desegregated movie theaters and restaurants in Wilmington, Delaware, when he didn't do any of that. He lied and said that he tried to visit Nelson Mandela during apartheid South Africa. He did not. And he came in here and told you aren't even black and let you think a certain kind of way. It seemed to me that should have been a nigga wake-up call for you, but it wasn't, apparently.
This was the best scene throughout this whole interview. My goodness. Finally, everyone was wondering, even people who were Democrats, who would vote Democrat, were wondering, why did he just sit there and allow this man to say this to him? That you're not black. I'm going to decide that you are not the race that you were born and you've been your entire life. If you don't vote the way I want you to vote.
You heard about my ex-boyfriend, right? 50 Cent and his support of Donald Trump.
Yeah, what's going on between you? I saw your tweets and I go, wait, what's happening? Because you said he was your favorite ex-boyfriend, and then what does he do? He's supporting Trump?
He says he doesn't want to pay 62% of taxes, which, by the way, isn't a plan of Joe Biden's. That's a lie. So he doesn't want to pay 62% of taxes because he doesn't want to go from being 50 cent to 20 cent. And I had to remind him that he was a black person, so he can't vote for Donald Trump, and that he shouldn't be influencing an entire swath of people who may listen to him because he's worried about his own personal pocketbook. So I haven't heard back from him yet, but I am willing to, seal the deal in more ways than one if he changes his mind and publicly denounces Donald Trump. I might be willing to go for another spin, if you know what I'm talking about.
He presented that question to him to insult him, but it backfired in a big way. Instead, you got checked, you got embarrassed, you got humiliated on your own show, you got checked, you got rebuked by an elder, and you were humbled. And rightly so. And it's about time someone called him out on that. He literally sat there and let this man come onto his show, or it was via Zoom or whatever, and tell him that if you don't vote the way I want you to vote, you ain't black. He allowed him to say that to his viewers, to his black audience. If you don't vote, he didn't even say if you don't vote for me. He said if you have to decide whether you want to vote for Donald Trump or me, you ain't black. So we're not even allowed to think. Even just stopping and thinking about who you should vote for. Apparently, you deserve to have your race revoked. You don't have the power to revoke anybody's race. That's what Democrats have told black people, though. That's what they've put out there for decades upon decades. That you're not black if you vote Republican. You're not black if you vote for anybody other than Democrats. That's the brainwashing that has gone on. And it's people who truly believe that you have to vote Democrat if you're black. And I've had people on my videos have the nerve to tell me that they expect more from a black woman, from a person of color. It's just the audacity to think that you can basically undermine somebody if they don't vote the way you want them to vote, if they don't think the way you want them to think even. To me, that's another form of racism. And it usually comes from white liberals. And Joe Biden is a classic example of that. And funny enough, black people vote Democrat at least at an 80% rate, 80 to 90%. If you go to Chicago, if you go to Baltimore, New York City, the ones suffering the most from these ridiculous policies that they have, especially when it comes to immigration, when it comes to soft on crime, The ones suffering the most are black people. And what did Charlamagne do after Joe Biden came on his show and disrespected him? He voted for him. Although he's trying to downplay it now and act like he's an independent or whatever. But you still voted for him. You were going around doing the rounds telling people how important it is to vote to make sure Trump doesn't get in.
You know, I always have to tackle this. The people who are unhappy with the Biden-Harris ticket, right? Because they're out there and they're in our comments every day and they're like, I'm not inspired by them. and you have been, you know, not afraid to kind of address some of the criticisms as well in your interviews, particularly with Vice President Biden. What do you say to them if they say, I'm not moved? Why do I have to choose between two, you know, tickets that I'm not inspired by?
I would tell them that I understand them and I hear them, and I'm not going to lie to them and act like I'm sitting here, you know, voting for individuals, because I'm not. Even though I do like Senator Kamala Harris and her record as a prosecutor is more progressive than people give her credit for, I'm voting for my interests, you know, and I'm voting to keep American democracy together. You know, I know that might sound crazy, you know, because American democracy has never been truly fair or just for black people. But if we let this current administration continue to do what they're doing, we're not going to stand a chance.
The same people who say it's wrong to misgender, it's violence to misgender somebody, the same people who tell you that are the same people who have no problem telling you that you're not black, who have no problem questioning your race, the race that you've been your whole life. Within a heartbeat, they will tell you that you're not black.
Apparently.
Yeah, I mean, no, for the record, I'm not a Democrat or Republican.
I didn't say you were.
Yeah, I think both.
I don't know what you are. I never even asked you about your party affiliation.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, but you are black.
Absolutely.
And to have a white guy come in here and tell you you have to say think a certain kind of way, otherwise you, quote, ain't black. Wow.
How should I have replied to him, you think?
What I just now said, how dare you insult me and tell me I think as a human being, let alone as a black person? I don't tell you how to think, Joe Biden. How dare you come in here and tell me how I should think? I'm going to vote for Donald Trump if I want to vote for Donald Trump. And if I want to vote for Donald Trump, it does not make me not black. 20% of black people, black men, as I said, voted for Donald Trump in 2020. Are they not black now? So only 80% of black men walking around are really black, 20% are not because they voted for Donald Trump. How insulting is that? How condescending is that?
Absolutely condescending and insulting. And I noticed that black people are the only ones who are expected to vote according to race. No one else is told that their vote is dependent on their race, on their skin color. I've never heard anybody say that to a white person, an Asian person, never. When it comes to black people now, black people are expected to vote Democrat based on skin color. The very party that wants you to be so concerned about race and basically make all your decisions surrounded by race. That's what they want.
I mean, you're probably right, but I didn't take it in that way.
Well, I did.
As I said,
I'm an independent. I didn't know. No, you messed up, and people haven't forgotten. And it's about time someone called you out on it. And Charlamagne deserved that because he really did try to disrespect Larry Elder here, talking about wake up call. Basically trying to say what happens when the Republicans turn around and are racist towards you, then what you're going to do. Basically, that's what he was trying to say. And he phrased the question in such a disrespectful way, and it backfired big time. They claim to be independent, but at the end of the day, I'm an independent. But obviously, it's no secret that I'm a conservative. So I'm going to vote according to policies that fall in line with conservative values. And these people claim to be independents, but they vote Democrat. Charlamagne was literally telling people, you know, even if you're uninspired, still vote for these people because we don't want the other side to get in. We don't want Trump to get in. A true independent would say that if you haven't earned my vote, I'm not voting for you. That's what a true independent would say. But he's still encouraging people to blindly follow the Democrats. I mean, if he believes that 2023 is more racist than 1997, then because of Trump, then clearly he has TDS. To the point where he can't even recognize when someone's being racist in his face. He couldn't even recognize it. He just sat there and said nothing.
To him in that moment, you know, it's just about me wanting something for my people. And I want to know what is he going to do for my people. And not only for my people now, how are you going to atone for the things you've done to my people?
Right.
That's it.
Right. And this is a guy, Joe Biden, who when he first got into the Senate, hung out with segregationists, talked about how well he got along with them. talked about how he didn't want integration because of a jungle. This guy has made all sorts of insulting things to black people, and his policies right now are hurting black people. Inflation hurts the people at the bottom more than anything else. Letting a bunch of illegal aliens into the border are hurting black people more than anybody else, as I said earlier. He's opposes school choice when he has his own kids in private school, and we lost a year, almost 2 years of in-school education in California because of COVID that he supported. I mean, this guy has done monstrous things to black people, and then for him to come in here and tell you how you ought to think as a black person, it blew my mind.
So that was great to see, and long overdue. Tezlyn hasn't changed. She basically disrespected Larry Elder in the same way as Joe Biden disrespected Charlamagne, reducing him to a blackface.
We do that. Charlamagne does that all the time. It's just the imbalance of understanding that even black faces in high places, even including yours and Democrats, Republicans, just being fair across the board. That's all.
Well, that to me basically is no different than what Joe Biden just did with Charlamagne, which is to tell me as a black person I got to think a certain kind of way, otherwise I'm not black.
And I didn't like that either.
Well, you just did.
I didn't like that either.
You just did. You call me a blackface as if I'm supposed to think a certain kind of way.
No,
you just
I said
did.
blackface. I said blackface in high places. I said they're everywhere. You're a blackface. You're in a high place. You're running for president of the United States. That's a high place, and you are a blackface, correct? I said so. There's blackface in high places on both sides. So it's just about being fair for me on both sides. I've mentioned three or four Democrats.
I agree with that.
And the like to dislike ratio on that video, it's not great. It's got like over 9,000 dislikes and 6,000 likes. So, I don't think people really cared for the fact that an elder came onto your show. He's not like a Vivek, a millennial. This is an elder in more ways than one. Comes onto your show and you ask him if he had a N-word wake-up call. And then on top of that, you refer to him as a blackface in high places, as if to say you're nothing but, just an image. You're not really doing anything, though. I can look at Ben Carson and I can think, wow, what amazing achievements. But then you get other people look at him and refer to him as a blackface.
What Democrats do is tell black people racism, racism, racism. They trot out David Duke or some other facsimile every 4 years to tell black people, vote for us, because after all, we're the party of racial justice, social justice, and equity. And these dastardly people over there, these Republicans, are the party of Jim Crow and slavery, even though it was the Democratic Party that was the party of Jim Crow and slavery.
So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.